Interview. Let me do the proper introduction. He's the captain of cuisine, the culinary colonel, the Tabrizi talisman, the Farsi foodmeister, the Turkish tradesman. It's your chef, Hoss-pitality, and this is Roqe Hoss-pitality.
Hi, this is your chef, Hoss-pitality, and this is Roqe Hoss-pitality.
Hello, Chef Hoss.
Hello, everybody.
Greetings from San Francisco and greetings from Toronto. You're in San Francisco. You were listening in on that interview with the food blogger Azita Hushiar from Fig and Quince. Any observations you want to make?
One of the most important things that she mentioned, I want to repeat it again. She said, being immigrant in your own country. That's I wrote on my social media. Being immigrant is very tough. But feeling immigrant in your own country, that's toughest to swallow. And she mentioned that one.
Meaning you went back to Iran and felt like an immigrant there.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's what she said exactly. Not exactly the word, but she felt that she's different. She speaks language different. People looking at her different. But even looking at you, people, they know you are from there, but you don't live there. They can even smell you that you are not from there. So that's very bizarre.
Were you familiar with her blog, with her site, the Fig and Quince?
Yeah, it was. I used to follow her, and then I had a pleasure when the first time, actually in 2015, I went to Iran after 30 years, and I met her. She invited me to one of these startup young generation group, and I met her. Very fascinating.
Oh,
we had a great
wow.
conversation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Well, and I have also coded a couple of from her blog in my social media, and I love her writing skills and the way she looks at the food, especially Iranian food.
We've talked about this a little bit, and I mentioned to her, the work that you're doing, infusing Persian cuisine, say into feeding the bellies of Google employees around the world, with the work you do with Google. But I should just put the question to you about whether you believe that this is a moment for Persian cuisine. I mean, she agreed that there's been this huge uptick in social media interest in Persian cuisine, but she also said that's across the board as food has become culture and food has become status in a way that people used to talk about, their record collections or their design or something like that. And now they talk about food as something to be proud of or something to display. Do you think that it is a particular moment for Persian cuisine or is that a bit of a fantasy?
No, it is in the right track going on right now. But the one thing that I am happy that she mentioned too, we are right now not angry about our food. We are in peace that we know Persia used to be a huge country and the food came from different regions and it's also evolved and developed. So right now with young generation, we are okay to acknowledge that there's no ethnicity of the food. There's no authentic word doesn't exist. There's a document that where it started, but it's been evolved. So we are accepting that one. That makes the road very smooth for the bloggers, new generation, and also mainstream of the Iranian food right now in social media accepted.
This is your mantra that food is constantly evolving and that there shouldn't be strict rules or parameters placed around Persian cuisine, right?
Exactly. What I like what she mentioned that when she was talking about the northern Iran, she was talking, my mouth was salvation when I was listening to her about this pomegranate, plums, and the wild pear paste those are the paste we used to use our food about sweet and sour. Tomato paste wasn't in our culture, so we used to use this beautiful, delicious wild fruit paste in our dishes, and those are the one we want to bring it back, and those I will be interested in, and I loved it the way she described it.
All right. By the way, I think your mouth was salivating, not salvation. Although when you're speaking, your mouth is salvation to us here at Roqe.
Well, I wanted to mention I used to be a little. You told me a couple of times in my interview, slow down. But now I can see the passion we have, same as Azita John. You slowed down her a few times too.
I know.
So
I didn't want to sound
it.
like I was mansplaining to her. But I really, she's got such interesting things to say, and I was like, slow down. You've got so much. Calm down. We got time, And yes, you were doing very well, by the way, Hoss. You've slowed down a lot. You have. I think my theory is that people who have a lot are very smart people and have a lot in their heads, and who aren't practiced performers necessarily in terms of oration, in terms of speaking. You're racing to get all the things that are in your head out because there's so much there. I've noticed that with you. You've got so much information to impart with us, and so I've been saying, just give us one or two and slow it down because we can't contain with the speed. Speaking of which, let's get to this week's episode of Hospitality. So, what is it that you're going to be telling us about today?
Today, we're going to talk about the most precious and delicious and expensive spice in the world, saffron, which is saffron flower. It comes from flower, Crocus sativus or saffron crocus. It's basically the flower, has a three beautiful crimson red stigma, which is dried and becomes saffron.
So saffron is a flower.
Yes.
Why it's a given for anyone who's Iranian, anyone who knows Persian cuisine, that saffron is a big part of things. Why is saffron important in Persian cuisine?
Well, it's right now it's mainstream on our food. We know how to use our food is for coloring, for aroma. The aroma is the most beautiful spice in the food we have. But it will be when we talk about history, you'll be shocked that the saffron was never used at the beginning for food. It was for medicine and perfume and dyeing agent. And later on, Iranian, they start using in the food. Even they was a saying, Greek, they say, don't eat that red saffron food is they are trying to drug you in Iran. So it was very fascinating to learn that.
It was used for perfume?
Perfumes, dye for carpets, medicine, and only close came to food was when they drop few pieces in their hot water, tea, or the wine as a medicinal aspect.
And when did it start getting used for food in Persian cuisine?
This one was around roughly about the 7th to 8th century in Iran, but before that was basically saffron native to Southwest Asia. And they documented from the Assyrian in the Baghdad area. But there's a hazy area. Some people they say is first time cultivated in Greece, or in Esfahan. So that's not sure. So it can be Esfahan, it can be Greece.
Why is it? What you mentioned earlier as you were describing saffron, you said it's expensive. It really is. Why is it so expensive?
Well, short and sweet is labor of love. But I can give you a couple numbers slowly so you can just let it sink. Number one, to harvest saffron, it has a 2 weeks time to harvest the saffron. Otherwise, it gets bad. That's number one. Number two, you have 40 hours of labor to pick 150,000 flowers. Each has a tree stigma. 40 hours. And this gives you 150, about 1 kilo, roughly 2 pounds of the saffron. But that's a wet saffron flowers. Then you take the stigmas out of it, which is reduces by half, and then after drying,
you take the what out of it? I'm sorry.
The flowers, because the flower has a 3 thread, and the weight is almost reduced by 1/3. Because when you first pick the flowers, that's one labor. Then you bring it home by hand. You take the traits or stigmas from the flowers. That's the second labor. And right now they do some machinery, but damages the saffron. Then when you dry this stigmas or threads, you lose 3/4 of the weight. So if you have 1 pound of the saffron, you're going to end up by 4 ounces of the dry saffron.
Right. So a lot of work to get very little out of all of that.
Little, exactly. Labor.
Right. So you always have a teaching element to this to the hospitality segment, and it's what you make the video about and for. So what are you teaching us this week with respect to saffron?
Well, when you are in your own restaurant, you know how to use it as saffron. But when I start working, actually today is 3 years anniversary at Google. When you work in a big corporation,
Congratulations.
you thank you. You see that how some chefs they are not familiar with saffron, how they use this expensive saffron and they're not properly using it, and your heart goes. Or it hurts your heart because you see this expensive saffron.
Right.
So proper way of blooming saffron, it saves the money and it gives you the best product.
So
So
you're
in
going to
my
teach
video,
us the way to properly bloom saffron.
correct.
Okay.
There are two ways to do that. They're both ways perfect, but it's one is easier than the other one. You don't need that much of the headache. So basically, anytime you have a saffron dry or spice, you need a heat element or liquid. So in this case, we are doing it with one with the hot water and one with the ice. Ice is easier, then you don't have to burn the saffron, but the hot water, those Iranian they use in the moms and grandmas,
Yeah.
they by experience they know the temperature of the water. But temperature is supposed to be between 95 to 100, or Fahrenheit it will be like 190 to 200. You keep that one to give the best color and aroma from saffron. Yeah, you don't burn the saffron flavor. But the ice and putting on the ice is the best method.
Putting it on ice.
Yes.
How does that turn the saffron into? How are you blooming it through ice?
First, okay, that's a good question. You take the saffron thread, and then you ground the saffron in the mortar and pestle or grinder, but make sure that piece of equipment always use for saffron so you don't contaminate the flavor.
Right.
And after grounding, you put a spoonful of that ice, let it sit for 40 minutes, ice melts, saffron become part of, and you get this beautiful concentrated saffron.
Wow.
And this saffron water, your bloom water, you can put in the jar and you can keep it between 1 week to 2 weeks in the refrigerator. And the ground saffron that you have, you can put in the, again, jar, tight sealed jar in freezer forever. So you don't have to do everyday grounding and
Yeah,
blooming.
yeah. You can only keep the liquid for 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, in the refrigerator.
Really? You can't stay longer than that?
No, it gets spoiled. Yeah, it's a little bit, when you do bloom it.
I've never actually done the grinding of the saffron myself. Like for years, my mom on Sundays, like when I'll visit her, will give me a little container of liquid saffron that she's made. When you reference the Persian moms out there, but I think she uses the hot water.
Yes, like that's right. Nothing wrong with that, but you have to be expert to use the right temperature of water, and they're expert. But in my case, I show on my video with thermometer. You put the water, make sure it's not too hot, so
Okay.
you have a right outcome on that.
So on the video, are you showing us both methods, the hot water and the ice method as well?
Yes, I am talking about saffron. I'm showing the grounding. I'm showing the hot and ice one. And also, since we talk about saffron right now, why do you see the saffron prices different in the market? Why is Iranian saffron expensive versus the Spanish? Saffron stigmas has a top part they call sour gold and bottom yellow. The yellow one is the one we use it just for flavor. They don't have a color.
Right.
So the top one is expensive one, but in the market they mix those together and they color them. So that's what some of the saffron has at the bottom of the stigma, which is yellow, color dyed and added to saffron. So you have to be careful. So the best saffron to buy is those beautiful bouquet bundles of the saffron come in the jar from Iran. So you know top part is the best saffron and bottom one is still you can use it for the flavoring, not for coloring.
Now, through my mom, I've learned to put saffron in a lot of Persian dishes that I would cook, like whatever, khoresh badem jun or whatever. What is your favorite application of saffron?
I like the color aroma. I like rice puddings. I like my cream sauce, especially the cream sauce. It's at the end you few drops of concentrated saffron in it. It gives a beautiful vibrant color and aroma. And again, I mix my cuisine sometimes with Italian. They use the saffron too, but on your cream sauces or in rice, actually, the aroma that gives it rice is amazing.
Of course, rice. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love this. I'm looking forward to this. Video is going to be at roqemedia.com, or on our Telegram channel, which is also Roqe Media. Shai, go ahead.
عزیزم, is it a myth that people say when you eat saffron, it makes you laugh?
Yeah.
Great question. There's that's medicine, but if you eat too much of saffron, it has a side effect and it can hallucinate you. That's good.
So you can
Yes.
so you can
You are
get
right.
high on
Drop some saffron. Yeah.
So
it's like a
same time you're
drug.
talking about this, Shaya John. There's old days before they used to use the food. They use the saffron in the soldiers or the general in the bath. They believe that it helps your tiredness and also helps your wounds get better. But I have a great story since Valentine's was. But Cleopatra, we all know Egyptian a lady.
Cleopatra,
She used to use a quarter of cup of saffron in her bath, right, for cause of coloring and cosmetic properties. She used it before. This is funny. Don't laugh, please. She used it before encounter with man in belief that the saffron makes love making more pleasurable.
wow.
No laughing
So-
matter.
No?
It's true. So this was a very interesting. I want to say for
Is
that
this
end.
true?
So, Chef Hoss, do you often bathe in the saffron then before your
I haven't tried
your
it, but gave me
weekends
some
in San
ideas.
Francisco? Well, we've learned a lot. By the way, as soon as you mentioned that it's also a drug that can cause hallucination, Keon perked up. She's interested all of a sudden.
Me and Shia looked at each other like, let's try it.
Keon just snorted a line of saffron off of her desk.
Keon's gonna get the doctor to acquire bags of saffron for the next holiday. Yeah.
At the end, in regards to food, I want to please to audience, please do not use saffron for your tactics because you wasting the money and it might gives you color but not the aroma.
What?
The turmeric, poor man's saffron, you can use the turmeric for the color because when you overcook the saffron, you lose the best part of the saffron aroma. So there's no point you use the saffron for tactics. After 1 hour of steaming, you ruin the saffron.
I love saffron taddy. You're telling me it's no good?
No,
I mean,
it's you don't know. The aroma goes, the flavor color is there. But since it's very expensive, it gives a flavor, but aroma goes away. But you can, at the end, you can drop some, you can spray the saffron on your tactic. That's fine.
I see.
There's trick, as a chef's trick. When I do saffron, do the tactic, at the end, you squeeze bottles, you can do saffron water, spray it like a moisturize on the tactic. You get the gorgeous aroma from saffron to your tactic. Absolutely.
Chef
But
Hoss,
save the money, use the turmeric.
you are the best. You're saving us money and finding ways for us to bathe in.
I'm going to take a saffron bath after this.
That sounds like a tremendous waste of money. The 1/4 cup of
I love
saffron
it.
for yeah.
Let's try it.
Chef Hoss, thank you. We'll see you next week. We'll look out for your video, roqemedia.com, to see Chef's latest video. This time, the best way to bloom and make saffron. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.
That's Chef Hoss-pitality in San Francisco with Hoss-pitality. Again, see the video at roqemedia.com or our Telegram channel, Roqe Media.